This is Murder News. It is August 17th. This video is for Lestat because she fine. So here's a multiple homicide. In this multiple homicide, there was one body that they found off a nature preserve, and then another one showed up a little bit later in some farmland. And these three guys fingered for the crime. And turning to legal news, and they haven't really said anything else about that. Here's a particularly gruesome multiple homicide. Dad killed. Cops found a burned out SUV. They traced the SUV to its owner's residence and then discovered the body of her sister. So right now, a lot of people are tracking this guy, who seems to have murdered his two kids, dumped their bodies in an oil vat. Today, they found mom. So there you go. And she was pregnant. This is a particularly sad story. So Shasta Green was a victim of Joseph Duncan, who's a convicted serial killer, and now Shasta's an adult. When she was returned to her family, they built her a house. So there was a charitable trust. So she moved out of her family home, and now they, the people that are in charge of the trust, want to sell the house, kick him, basically evict her dad and sell the house. But she says, no, that's our family home. He lives there, so don't kick him out. Next, serial killer in Detroit. So this is a guy who has been accused of killing 6 people. Around through 2000, 2003, and he's finally been brought to Detroit to see some, I assume,
I just had a love for engines. I didn't have the experience as a mechanic.
Oh, I had so much experience. Please
so that
give
people
me your
without
experience straight up the butt.
They make sure
oh
that
my
you
god. Oh
was
my
everything
experience.
I expected, plus more.
Oh, plus more. More in the butt.
They all say he just fell through the cracks, but not anymore. A suspected serial killer back in Detroit to face a judge in an 18-year-old cold case. James Matthews is suspected in the murders of 6 people in 3 different states, including here in Michigan.
But years ago, somehow he slipped through the cracks, avoiding a list of serious charges here in Detroit. That ended today. Steve Garagiola was in the courtroom as Matthews was arraigned in a case dating back to the year 2000.
This is interesting. Timothy Coggins is 23. He was stabbed more than 30 times and then dragged behind a truck. So he pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter, concealing a body, and that's about it. We got a racially motivated serial killer off the streets. Good job, Detroit. Suspect in California. Oh my God, this is the Golden State Killer. Is there anything I can tell you about the Golden State Killer that you don't already know? Anyway, what happened this week was he caught another charge. Wisconsin Innocence Project is involved in this case. What happened was this guy, Shawnte Ott. Shawnte Ott was caught up in the Walter Ellis situation. He was a minor serial killer in Milwaukee. Ott was released in 2009 and compensated, but one of the witnesses, now Sammy Hadaway, was cognitively and physically disabled, who was 17, and detectives interrogated him for days after another man said that he had driven Ott Hadaway Payne to the abandoned building, and thankfully he's out of jail. They vacated his. We're in Springfield, Massachusetts, and this is a serial killer. He's been charged with 3 murders. This is Stuart Weldon, and Stuart Weldon committed murder, rape, assault, attempted rape, and kidnapping over a year's time, involving 11 different victims. He was involved in a traffic stop, and a woman found in his car said that she'd been beaten and held captive. Thankfully, he's being brought to justice. All right, so we're in Louisiana. This guy is an alleged serial killer. He's been found incompetent to stand trial. Ryan Sharp of Clinton, arraigned on charges of second-degree murder in a shooting and attempted first-degree murder. Anyway, he said he's not competent to stand trial. Oh, yes, here we go. Entertainment news. Serial killer-related entertainment. So anyway, out in Vermont, it gets pretty rural, and an independent filmmaker is shooting a movie about Robert Garrow, who is a serial killer from the North Country of Vermont. He murdered a 16-year-old girl and 3 campers in a killing spree. I guess I'll link this in the description. If I don't do it, remind me. Or somebody put it in the comments, please. Jack the Ripper. Something new about Jack the Ripper. So they got a new book that claims that Jack the Ripper may have been a woman. Metropolitan Police Detective Frederick Aberline recorded witness statements claiming to have seen someone wearing the final victim's clothing as they left the murder scene. Maybe it wasn't Jack the Ripper, maybe it was Jill. Fred West and his wife murdered, raped, and dismembered young women, including 2 of their own daughters. Fred killed himself before being brought to trial on 12 murder charges, is believed to have killed many more. Paul Render, Hollywood producer, was tipped off about more victims at a family funeral by a man who worked with West's first wife. The screenwriter believes there are more bodies buried in an allotment which West used in the early 60s. So this could be very, very interesting for people who are interested in Rose West and her husband. And finally, a Boise writer investigates a Detroit serial killer. J. Reuben Appelman is on tour to cover The Kill Jar Chronicles, the hunt for a serial killer who haunted his neighborhood in Detroit in the 1970s. And he's doing a book tour. So look him up. Anyway, that's going to be all for today. Please, 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 if you're in the Discord, please tell Lust how much she means to us and how great she is, and how we acknowledge and love and respect how hard she works for us and how great it is that she is running the show. Thanks a lot. I'm Parachute.